You can hear people in
Yeah,
the chat already typing away.
I'm a new player and I invested in Red Eyes and I got King of Games. Oh my god, look at me. Okay. Like,
Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here coming at you with this week's new player discussion video. Sing's losing his mind over there. And this week we're going to be talking about the top 5 new player traps in the game. Now, we did the top 3 new player traps a couple months ago, but I wanted to update it because I feel there's at least 2 more new player traps that you can fall into. I got Sing here. Hopefully he's composed himself. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Circus. How are
That's
you?
good. He's one of the new player helpers, and Sing and a couple of the other guys in the Discord came up with this list. So we'll be discussing that. But just real quick, I wanted to tell you about DLE and why we do what we do here, and we like helping new players get a start in the game, and it's real important to us that you get a good start because if you enjoy the game, you're going to keep playing, you're going to keep watching videos, we can keep making videos, you can keep watching them, we can play the game together. It's great, right? I'm always concerned though, or always worried about giving inaccurate information or bad information or leading you down a path that'll make you not have fun in the game. So that's why a lot of the advice we give seems kind of conservative at times, talking about staples, not buying decks, things like that. And it's just because we want to make sure that the advice that we do give is sound and doesn't lead you down a path that ultimately you'd be unhappy with. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get into the top 5 new player traps. Now, remember, just because you've fallen into one of these or you've done one of these doesn't make you a bad person or a bad player. I've actually done every single one of these. I wish there were these videos when I first started the game. Okay, so don't feel bad. Hashtag I'm with Circus. All right, you're with me with the new player traps, so don't feel bad. We're not judging. This is a judgment-free zone. Sing will judge you. I won't, but Sing will. All right.
I will. I always judge people.
All right. So
So
let's do number 5. What is it?
yeah, so number 5 is actually YouTube videos.
Like this one right here.
Not
It's
exactly
horrible. It's
Circus.
horrible. Don't watch it.
That's it's a matter of opinion, you know.
My opinion
But
matters. It's just a bad video.
it does matter, Circus, but my opinion also matters.
Oh,
Okay.
so go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for number 5, I wanted to specifically talk about Duel Links YouTube videos that like profile a deck and show you gameplay. So one thing to note about YouTube in comparison to Twitch, obviously, is that with YouTube, you can upload whichever clips you would like to show, and you can scrap anything you don't want your audience to see. So you can cherry pick clips, and you can show specific highlights of your deck
Mm-hmm.
and hide any like low points of the deck, right? So you're only going to be seeing the highlights, the cool outplays, like the one time in like 100 games where you pop off, like that one time where it actually works. And these YouTube videos are purely for entertainment purposes. They're not to be used as like, oh, hey, go invest in this deck. It's competitive. You can win a lot. That's not the purpose. If you want to see like a competitive deck and how competitive decks would actually look, you can go watch a tournament live because that's where you're going to see how they perform. You're going to see all the fails, how you're going to see how consistent it is, how successful a deck can be in a real tournament. Whereas on ladder, ladder can seem competitive for new players, and it is as a new player. Going up in the ranks is actually competitive for a new player. But you have to realize that ladder is going to have a ton of players that don't have optimized decks, don't understand what other cards do, how interactions play out, when to activate what. There's going to be a lot of misplays, and you're not going to get that in a tournament, at least not nearly as often, right? Because these tournament players know exactly what they're doing, right? They have optimized decks. They're ready for all their matchups. Their main decking outs, they're side decking specifically for these matchups, and they're ready to play against them, right? So just make sure, like, if you see a deck on YouTube, check out tournament results if you really want to see if it's worth investing in. Ladder gameplay is fun and all, but it's not going to really be a good show of how well a deck can actually perform, in a real scenario where you're against a good player that knows what they're doing, right?
And I guess this kind of ties back into the why we do what we do here is because, yes, if you want to play the ladder and just play some meme deck, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. But the advice that I'm going to give is never go get a meme deck and play on the ladder because it's ultimately you're going to spend a lot of gems, and then the deck's going to fade away in popularity or the ability to climb the ladder. And that's why we're always pushing meta decks. People call us meta slaves or whatever. Honestly, they last longer. You're gonna invest in them; they're gonna last longer, and that's why we recommend them over because like I like playing meme decks, and I'll tell you, being a meme player is the most expensive player there is because you have to have all the cards and you have to be able to like switch at any time. And there's a lot of great entertaining decks out there on YouTube, and they're fun to play, but they only last for a little while. I can tell you that right now. They're usually exploiting something in the meta game. They're like, oh, no one's really paying attention to this mechanic, so I can exploit it and win. And then people start teching in for it, or the game changes, and then that deck doesn't work. But then a new one comes out, and it's a very expensive way to play the game. And that's why we're always like really cautious about our advice. It's like, yes, we're going to say Noble Knights. Yes, we're going to say Blue Eyes. You meta slaves. Well, they're going to last basically. So don't go chasing YouTube videos. And if you want to see a good parody video of entertaining YouTube videos, I'll link it in the description below. Is a Performapal video I did where I made Performapals look like one of the best decks ever in the game. So make sure to check that out in the description below. All right. Number 4, Sing.
Number 4, this might get a little heated, but it's free to play trap decks.
Yeah, we have a couple examples. We don't have to go into each one, but these are just a couple of examples, right? Because these are the ones that people always say, you're new to the game, you got to get these decks, they're really cheap, you can get into them really quick. But why don't we want to do that?
So, well, before I get into that, the 2 decks I'm going to be talking about are Lunalight and Super Heavy Samurai.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see you right there. Hey, get your grubby little keyboard out of the way. Okay, I don't want to see you typing. Look at me.
Oh wow, he's serious now.
I'm serious, yeah. These decks are really a hot topic among free-to-play players and new players specifically. So I really want to emphasize this point, So first off, Lunalights. Let's focus on this deck specifically. So Lunalight, you would assume as a new player, Lunalight's boss monster Saber Dancer, since it's untargetable, you're immune to Karma Cut, and Karma Cut is the most used card in Duel Links, like just in general, right? So if you're putting like 2 and 2 together, Lunalight would actually sound pretty good at first. And you're right, it does sound good at first, but then let's actually take a look at all the decks that are being played. So on ladder specifically, like 90% of representation is just Blue Eyes White Dragon, which I will say it used to be a bad matchup, but after the latest support they received, with cards like Twin Burst being in the extra deck, not requiring the Ultimate Dragon skill, a card like Heliopolis giving you non-targeting destruction. So both Twin Burst and Heliopolis easily out Saber Dancer, and it's very easy to get into. You just need 2 Blue Eyes either on the field or in hand with Poly for Twin Burst, or you can Contact Fuse. It's really easy to out, basically, is what I'm trying to say. A deck like Noble Knights, you just get Gwen, like 1 Boar's effect, and you can non-targeting pop Saber Dancer. Thunder Dragons have Legionnaire. Desperado is Desperado. Cyber Dragon is Cyber Dragon. You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Every single deck has very easy outs to your untargetable boss monster. Being untargetable in the current meta, even last meta, it wasn't really that powerful. And now it's especially bad. And I want to stress, going in Judgment Force is a good box. And Lunalight is in Judgment Force. But if you're going into Judgment Force purely for Lunalight to play that deck, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
You should be going in specifically for Blue Eyes and getting Lunalights in the process, or going for Lightsworn and getting Lunalights in the process as like a backup deck to play, or in case you get bored of your main deck, right? You don't want to go into Judgment Force just for Lunalights.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then Super Heavy Samurai, this is always a very contentious one just because you can get a lot of wins with it and you can cog with it. But
but it's an OTK deck. It's sacky. There's no interaction required. There's a ton of points I can touch on. So the first one is that it's sacky. So the thing about Super Heavy Samurai is you aim to go second. You don't read any of your opponent's cards. You set up your level 7 synchro and you attack directly twice for lethal. And that's what you do every single game. Every single game. And you can cog doing that. I mean, it's been proven. You can still cog consistently with Super Heavy Samurai. But I just want to say, like, this is a bad way to play the game because you're not going to be learning interactions. You're not going to be using your staple cards like Canadia, Floodgate, etc. You're not going to be learning the choke points of each deck. You know, you're really limiting your you're not going to learn is basically what I'm trying to say. If you're just doing the same play over and over again and you're skipping over whatever your opponent's trying to do and you just attack directly for game, like getting wins like that, yes, you're going to rack up wins, but you're not going to learn how to play the game. There's no real thinking required. There's no interaction. Just sack and move on.
Well, that's
Really,
kind of
what
the
deck
problem we
is.
see with the YouTube video decks, and then like talking about not learning the game, the mechanics. That's a problem I think a lot of new players. This almost could be a trap within itself for I guess maybe, is not really learning the game because you'll see someone like on stream or in a YouTube video that's actually very good at the game, and they can take a deck that isn't very good and they can win with it because they know the game, they know the mechanics, they know the choke points of decks, and they can take a bad deck and win with it. Whereas if you're just playing these decks like Luna Lights, I love Luna Lights. I played the hell out of it. I did really well in a KC Cup in it like a year and a half ago, though. I mean, this deck's been on forever. Super Heavy Samurai, I've never been a big fan of it, but both these decks, I mean, they're very linear. They only do a certain amount of things, and you're not going to learn a lot of like interactions and timings and things like that. That if you learn them, you're going to be a lot better at the game, and that's part of the
Mm.
problem with some of these decks. And then the other problem with these decks are people are like, oh, they're free to play. You can get them really easy. They're all in one main box. And if you look at these decks that people name like this, and I think Digibugs is the latest one, which I'm having a lot of fun with. I know everybody, Digibug Nation's all mad at me, but digital bugs are fun. But Konami puts these decks into main boxes to get people to go get them. But realistically, they're not good for very long. And that's why they're basically kind of like a free deck because Konami's like, here, this will get the free to play players to buy into the box. And then it's only good for a certain amount of time. And that's why we're always recommending these other decks that are going to last a longer amount of time because, like, Luna Lights, it's good for a month. It goes away. Maybe it comes back 3 or 4 months later. Things like that. A deck that just like if you got Shiranui when it first came out, that deck lasted a year. Element Sabers, that deck lasted a year. There's a lot of decks like that. Heroes back in the day, not Heroes now, but the Heroes with Anki back in the day, Balance Heroes. That deck lasted a year, and that's the kind of stuff we want to recommend. Not like, hey, this is easy, you can get it quick and just start getting King of Games with it, and then it goes away. That ties back into why we do what we do, why we give the advice we give is because we want you to have a good informed decision. We don't want you to waste your gems because wasting gems is wasting time in real life. That's like
Mm.
the worst thing to waste.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you brought up a really solid point, Circus. And something else I wanted to touch upon is that I feel like new players they really lock themselves into these free to play decks because they overvalue COG. A King of Games specifically is what I mean by COG.
Mm-hmm.
They put it on such a high pedestal, but really no one cares about King of Games. Like you get it once and then you're gonna realize, well,
I
this
think
isn't
the
that
first time
special.
you get it, it's just like, yes, oh, I am
Yeah.
the king of games. And then
Yeah.
you do it 2 or 3, 4, 5 more times. It's like, this isn't as, now that I know how to play the game, this isn't that hard. This is, it's just playing a certain amount of games in a row.
Yeah, and I can totally see why, from like a new player's perspective, like you see King of Games and you're like, wow, like this is the highest rank in the game. Like I have to get this, I have to build a
Right.
deck to do this. But really, like King of Games is only like so special, and it really just wears off. Like, um, I mean, again, I'm like promoting tournaments when I say this, but like tournaments are really where like,
Winning a tournament is way
yeah,
better.
it's way better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's way
for
more fun.
sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've even
Yeah.
tried to get COG like in a year. Like actively tried. I'll play, and if I get COG, awesome. But I haven't like actively like I'm sitting down and getting COG this month.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, let's move this thing along. Then number 3.
Number 3. So just because you lost to it doesn't mean it's good, and vice versa. So
Right.
just because you beat it doesn't mean it's bad, right? So funnily enough, there's actually an example of this today in the new player help channel within our Discord, which is linked down below in the YouTube description.
Attaboy.
Yeah, so one of the new players was bringing up Sylvans, and I was like, what? Sylvans? Like, I haven't heard this name in like 2, 3
Yeah,
years.
it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. And they're like, yeah, I saw this Sylvan deck. Man, it beat Noble Knights. Yo, I think Sylvan's is like the way to go. Like, I'm genuinely thinking about investing into this deck.
No, that deck has been nerfed to the ground.
It's not even just there's a lot we could talk about as to why Sylvans aren't
Right, but
viable
I mean
anymore,
that
but
just
that's
yeah, don't do it. Please don't do it.
yeah. So I can understand from like a new player's perspective, you're saying, wow, this deck beat the top dog, Noble Knights. It must be good, right? There's a couple more factors to consider. So again, as I said in the first point, number 5, it's ladder. Okay, so that Noble Knight pilot probably has no idea what they're doing. And their deck, it's probably not built very well. You have to really take that into account. And Sylvan, I mean, there's a reason it hasn't been relevant for like 2 to 3 years. Set Come Much From a Pass isn't nearly as devastating as it used to
Right.
be back when it was meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like there's a reason Sylvan is not. If Sylvan was so good against Noble Knights, it would probably be some. You would probably see it in tournaments. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think the main point is a lot of times when you're on the ladder, and the reason I
Mhm.
actually enjoy the ladder more than tournaments, because tournaments to me are a little boring to play in because it's the same decks over and over, which we know.
Yeah.
I like ladder because it's the Wild West. You don't know what you're going to run into, and I think with a lot of new players, like they see a deck, it just comes in and claps them really hard, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is the best deck ever!" And it's more like maybe you just didn't know how to play against it because every deck
Mhm.
we've talked about before has a choke point, and if you can find where that is, you can beat them. And if you know the mechanics, you know how to interact with it, you're going to do a lot better than if you see a deck for the first time and you don't even know what the cards do. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they just beat me. That must be a really good deck. And it's like, is it a good deck or do you just have learning to do?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really solid circus, and I guarantee a Noble Knight player has no idea what subs do because even I don't know what they do anymore after like 3 years of irrelevant.
Right.
I like I'd have to reread the cards for sure.
Yeah.
And if Sylvan did become an act thing, I guarantee the Noble Knight would actually know what the cards do, and they would play against the deck correctly.
Right.
You know, yeah.
All right.
So I think that's for number 2,
All right.
or
Moving
sorry,
on to
number
number two, then. What's number
yeah.
two?
Number 2 is anime bias.
Oh, no.
We
Oh,
have an
no.
entire video on this.
We
An
do. We
entire
kind of covered
video.
this before, right? But anime bias, that's
Mhm.
we all know there's an anime. I was about to say cartoon, which would have started a whole nother controversy right there. But there's
Mhm.
a show, a program about this card game, and a lot of people see it, and they love the decks they see in the game or in the show, and they want to do it in the game, right? But what's the problem with that?
The problem with that is that Konami knows about this, and they actually aim Duel Links at this more casual fan base. So you're gonna see, you see decks like Dark Magician and Blue Eyes and the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, and you're gonna also see them in Duel Links. But since Konami knows that this big casual fan base is gonna be coming in, they're gonna intentionally make these decks more expensive and harder to obtain so that they can milk more money out of you because they know plenty of players are going to invest in them despite the deck maybe not performing very well or being overpriced for how strong it really is.
Right.
um so I guess Blue Eyes, I'll get into Blue Eyes in a sec, but
Blue Eyes is
one
pretty
thing I
damn good right now, though. But I mean,
yeah, okay.
right now there's a structure deck out which kind of consolidates all the cards that were spread out all over the place. But before this, to play Blue Eyes, it
Mhm.
was one of the most expensive decks in the game.
Oh yeah. So actually Konami, I was going to touch upon this a little later, but I can touch upon it now where
Oh,
Konami
touch it
intentionally.
right now.
Oh, I'm touching it all over, Circus.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So Konami intentionally spreads these cards out among many boxes. I mean, if you ignore the structure deck and pretend it never existed, let's take a look. Just like a quick look. Azure Eyes is a main box UR over here. Whitestone is a mini box UR over there. Spirit Dragon is a main box UR over there. Cards of Consonance is over here. It's all spread out. It's insanely expensive. You're gonna have to go into like 4 boxes just to get the core cards,
right.
and then even then, you're gonna need like the extra deck toolbox. Use some staple traps, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot, and this applies to other decks as well. Like Hero, I mean, Hero players get done dirty, but especially with like Stratos being a
The
selection
selection
box
box,
you are.
you are. That was so bad.
Gosh, for a year, and then when he does come out, he comes out in Shark Fang, man.
Right. So
That's
you have
like
to
the
go into
worst
that
box I've ever
box.
seen.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. It's really nasty, you know. And of course there are exceptions. Like making the Blue Eye structure deck on Konami's part is insane.
Right.
That does not. This is like the first time we've ever seen that where they actually make an anime deck affordable, and that the value of that structure deck is really absurd. It's like 15, 20,000 gems per copy. It's insane.
Yeah. There's a
But
lot of good
that's
stuff in that one.
that's an exception for sure. And one thing I really wanted to touch upon was the Red Eye structure deck
Oh
specifically.
God. No, don't go there. You can hear people in
Yeah,
the chat already typing away.
I'm a new player and I invested in Red Eyes and I got King of Games. Oh my god, look at me. Okay, first off,
Oh,
was that mean?
no,
I
that
feel
was
like that was a
great.
little
That
mean.
that's the intro right there.
Oh, really? Okay, that's the intro for sure. Yeah, so if you know what the DLE new player path is, you know we generally we recommend investing into Amazonas, which is basically a free deck. I mean, 90% of it is through tickets, at least for the core, and then you just get Onslaught through Valiant Souls, which you would be digging into regardless for your staple card Canadia.
Right.
And you can also get a structure deck like Heroes at the same time. But you know, what does Red Eyes do that Amazonas doesn't already do better? Because really, Red Eyes is a control deck, but you're not going to have any disruption. I mean, your entire back row is flooded with these equip spells. Like you just have a monster that can negate targeting effects, and it's just a big beater. And really, when you're getting a little higher on the ladder, like Platinum or Legend, no one's going to care about that, man. Like there's so many outs. Just running tons of traps in Amazonas is going to be it's going to get you a lot farther. And if you really want to invest into a structure deck, you can get something like Heroes, and you can actually learn a totally different play style from
Hmm.
Amazonas. So you're getting both sides of the spectrum. You're getting control with Amazonas, and you're getting OTK with Hero, and then you're learning the game, and you're not just activating Red Eyes Fusion, sit on monster, attack, big beater, go.
Right.
Okay, at least with Amazonas, which is also control, you're learning interactions. You're learning how to use these staple cards, how to make the best use of them. You know, you're learning a lot. And with Hero, you're getting a different play style. So you're getting so much more for so much cheaper. I mean, Amazonas is cheaper than the Red Eyes. Hero is the same cost, but it actually teaches you how to play the game because it gives you an entirely different play style.
Right.
Um, mhm,
No, so
you know.
anime bias though. Remember, just because Yugi wins with it doesn't mean you will.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
God, that gives me flashbacks to like seeing one like Red Eyes decks with like one copy of each card, like not a single two of or three of,
Yeah.
just Highlander, like the anime. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
goodness.
All right. So let's get to number
Mhm.
one here.
The big number one. Yeah, so this is going to be investing in a meta deck right away.
Yes.
So you may be tempted to invest in a meta deck as a new player, but we really want to stress for you guys to take it slowly and build up your account really. We want you to build a foundation with these staple cards and these cheap decks, um, like Amazonas and Heroes, so you can really you can streamline deck building in the future. Because you know, if you're a new player and you invested into Shiranui right away, well, when Shiranui eventually got hit on the ban list, what were you left with? A couple ballista squads, really, and like a fiendish chain here or there. That's all you had left. You really had nothing on your account and you couldn't play the game. Whereas if you take it slowly and you follow our path, you're gonna have a ton of staple cards. You know, if your main deck gets hit, you're gonna have the foundation to build another deck, and you just need to collect the core, right? So like if you have every single like staple trap in the game, now, this Shiranui's is actually a special case because that deck was like deceptively cheap. It wasn't actually cheap. It was really expensive because the strength of that deck didn't lie in the core. It really lied in the staple traps that you had to supplement the deck.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you go into a tournament and you don't have triple fiendish chain when Thunder Dragon is relevant, you know, you're screwed. Your deck is top tier, but you don't have the cards to supplement it and make it top tier, right?
Right.
So that's a little tangent I had to go off on. But yeah.
Well, I think it's important, like you were talking about with Amazonas, you learn control. With Heroes, you can learn OTK style. And a lot of people don't know that stuff getting into the game, what they're gonna like to do in the game. You know, I like playing control, and I didn't
Mm,
know that for a very long time. It's like, oh, this is a very fun way to play the game, but getting into it, I had no idea what that was, and I would chase decks
mhm,
all over the place because it looked good in a YouTube video or on stream or something like that, you know. But learning what you like about the game is way more important than just getting into a deck. And I know this game is a gotcha game, and I always call it a gotcha game because it gets you right. It's like gotcha, you know. You know, it's like, oh, I want that deck, gotcha. You know, that's what they do. They make you want to get a new deck every month. You know, but as a free to play player or as a new player, it's like just slow down, just wait, build your foundation, and then find the right deck and a deck that's going to be around for a while. That's the whole thing. A deck
mm,
that's going to last.
and build a foundation. So when your deck eventually gets hit and it becomes unplayable, you have all the necessary tools to build another deck. This is like the really big thing about the new player path is setting up your account to like streamline deck building in the future. So like your deck gets hit, you know what? You just need a new deck's core, and you have the entire thing because you have all the staple cards,
Right.
and it's that easy. Boom, you can just move on to another deck like that. And you know, if you maybe don't have the gems to do so, you still have backup decks.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
just keep all that in mind. I know this is kind of a long video for such a short list, but I hope what you see here helps you understand the game a little bit more or understand why we do what we do here. And that's really to help you get a good start in the game and hopefully guide you through the path to having a good account and not wasting gems, which to me is just wasting time because to get 1,000 gems, I don't even know how many hours that takes sometimes, you know?
mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
So to me, wasting time in real life is one of the most is one of the worst things you can do, right? Because you can't get it back. I can always get more money. I can always get more money. You can't get that time back that you spent getting those gems. So spend them wisely. Don't chase decks. Follow our advice because we're smart. Look how smart we are. Just look at
yeah.
us. Exactly. All right. Sing. Sing. Sing's died. Sing's dead.
Oh shit, am I frozen?
He's frozen. That's okay. Can we do the outro while he's frozen? He's back, baby. All right, here we go. We're going to do the outro before he dies. Oh, he's dying. Get in our
Uh,
Discord because that's where
uh,
everything happens. That's where we host our tournaments. That's where we have the new player channel. You can get new player help from people like Sing. He's doing hand motions like he works
oh
on a
my,
ship. And we're going to get out of here before everything dies. I'm Circus. That's Sing.
and we'll see you guys next time.
Nice. All right. See you
Let's
guys.
go. Ah. Ah.